1983, Diane Downs and her 3 children were shot on Old Mohawk Road in rural Oregon.
Wes and Willadene Frederickson welcomed their daughter Elizabeth Diane Frederickson into the world on August 7, 1955, in the city of Phoenix, Arizona. Whilst at the Moon Valley High School in Phoenix, Elizabeth Diane Frederickson met Steve Downs, and the two began dating. She married Steve Downs on November 13, 1973, and the couple welcomed Christie Ann, their first child, in 1974. Cheryl Lynn was born in 1976, followed by Stephen Daniel in 1979. Steve believes Stephen Daniel, also known as Danny, was the result of one of many affairs Diane had. The pair divorced in 1980, about a year after Stephen Danny Downs was born. When she first met Robert Knickerbocker at her job, she immediately knew that she had found the man of her dreams. From the start of the relationship, there was a problem, one that would not go away easily. What is the issue? Well, Robert Knickerbocker had a wife. Despite Diane's pleadings, Robert refused to leave his wife. Robert had no intention of abandoning his wife, and he had no desire to raise another man's child, let alone 3 children. Knickerbocker stopped the relationship because she demanded more than being the other woman. After this, Diane moved herself and her children to Oregon, distraught and heartbroken. By 1981, Diane had joined the USPS and was assigned to mail delivery routes in Cottage Grove. Diane was miraculously approved into the pregnant surrogate program at the end of 1981. In 1982, Diane Downs gave birth to a baby girl, Jennifer, on the night of May 8, 1982. This time, Diane was acting as a surrogate mother and had been artificially inseminated with a woman's husband's sperm 9 months prior, and had signed a contract promising to deliver the couple the child in exchange for $10,000. People have wondered why I won't regret this, giving up the baby, Downs said in February 1983 interview with the Washington Post concerning surrogate moms. And that's a simple question to answer. You've terminated something when you kill a child or have an abortion. It's cruel, disgusting, and dreadful that you've murdered someone. But when you do something out of love, like bear a child for someone else and give up their life to them, you haven't done anything wrong, and you haven't done anything you'll ever regret. It's excellent. Of course, hindsight is 20/20, but Diane was not the sweet and innocent woman she attempted to portray herself as by offering her surrogacy services. In fact, by all accounts, according to friends, acquaintances, and neighbors, as well as eventually the surviving daughter Christie, Diane Downs was an inadequate mom who put everything before her children. Christie was the only kid to survive. She was particularly vicious to Cheryl, who confessed to a neighbor of her grandparents just a short time before she passed away that she feared her mother. She was extremely nasty to Cheryl. A red Nissan sport vehicle arrived at the McKenzie-Willamette Hospital ER in Springfield, Oregon, at 10:48 p.m. on May 19, 1983. "Someone killed my kids," yelled Diane Downs from the driver's side of the car. 3 children, 2 girls and a boy, were found inside, all coated in blood. Cheryl, 7, had already died after being shot multiple times at close range. Christie, 8, had suffered a stroke as a result of massive blood loss, and Danny, 3, was paralyzed due to a bullet wound to his spine. Diane Downs, a 27-year-old postal worker, was shot in the left forearm and had minor injuries. The Lane County Sheriff's Department dispatched Detective Doug Welsh to question her about what had happened. Downs claimed she was returning home from a friend's house and had gone sightseeing on an unfamiliar back road. She observed a shaggy or bushy-haired man on the side of the road, signaling for her to pull over. After the children had gone to sleep and Duran Duran's "Hungry Like the Wolf" was playing on the cassette player, she did, then switched off the car, removed the keys from the ignition, and exited to investigate what was wrong. "I want your car," she stated the man said. "You've got to be kidding me," she exclaimed. According to her, the man shoved her aside, pointed the gun inside the car, and started shooting. To divert his attention, she feigned to throw the keys away. When he turned away, she threw him out of the car and returned inside, then drove directly to the hospital, like a lunatic. He shot her during the scuffle, according to her. Downs described her assailant as a bushy-haired man, and police issued an APB for him. But her explanation didn't seem to add up to Welsh and the other police. In the dark, who goes sightseeing? Why would someone stop their car and get out for a creepy-looking stranger on a deserted road? Other red flags started to appear. Downs' wounds had been neatly dressed when she arrived at the hospital, but considering the amount of blood inside the car, her right arm was amazingly clean. Welsh was also taken aback by how emotionally flat she appeared to be. Downs didn't appear disturbed about the fact that one of her children died, and the other two were severely damaged, according to hospital employees, including Dr. Stephen Wilhite, the children's surgeon. Rather than focusing on her children's health, she was focused on contacting her lover when she first arrived at the hospital. When the staff informed her that Danny had been paralyzed, she was taken aback by the fact that the bullet had struck Danny's spine rather than his heart. She also stated things like, "Boy, this has really ruined my vacation," and "That really ruined my new car," which made her sound entirely divorced from reality. "I spilled blood on the back of it." So, 4 days after her children were shot, authorities summoned Downs to repeat the events of the night. Downs primped her hair and makeup in the rearview mirror while the cameras were rolling before getting into her act. She acted silly in front of the cameras, grinning and smiling. She banged her cast at one point and exclaimed, between chuckles, that it almost hurt more than when it happened, before catching herself and laughing it off. But it was the slip of the tongue that shifted the police's perception in this instance. Detectives were entrusted with researching into Diane's background during the investigation, which showed some concerning patterns of behavior. Elizabeth Diane Frederickson was born on August 7, 1955 in Phoenix, Arizona. She began going by her middle name, Diane, as a teenager, in defiance of her parents' traditional Baptist upbringing. She began dating Stephen Downs, a 16-year-old who lived across the street at the age of 14, against her parents' wishes. Stephen entered the Navy after high school, while Diane attended Pacific Coast Baptist Bible College. She was expelled for promiscuity after only 1 year and returned to live with her parents. Despite this, the two maintained their long-distance relationship until Stephen returned from the Navy in November 1973. Diane eloped from her family, and the two married. From the beginning, the marriage was rough. They squabbled over money and Stephen's fears that Diane was having an affair with him. Diane frequently abandoned Stephen and returned to her parents, but they always reconciled. Despite their marital issues, they had their first child, Christie, in 1974. Diane revealed that she did not consult Stephen before becoming pregnant, but rather did it on her own. She gave birth to their second child, Cheryl, a year later. "She was the only woman I know who gets pregnant to cheer herself up," according to Stephen. However, as much as she seemed to adore being pregnant, she didn't appear to enjoy parenting children. "She was a jerk to the kids," he added. Stephen decided he didn't want any more children at this point, and he got a vasectomy, since he didn't trust Diane to keep taking birth control. Diane became pregnant again, but she chose to abort the baby. They relocated to Mesa, Arizona in 1978. Diane had many affairs with her employees there, and she became pregnant once again. She brought the kid to term this time, and Stephen Daniel Danny was born in December 1979. Stephen accepted Danny despite the fact that he was not the boy's biological father. Stephen and Diane divorced less than a year later. Diane spent the following 5 years hopping around from guy to guy, moving in with each one and attempting to reconcile with Stephen on occasion. She acquired a full-time job as a mail carrier in Arizona in 1981. She would normally send the kids to stay with other family members while she was at work. Neighbors, on the other hand, expressed concern about the children's safety when they were with their mother. They claimed the youngsters were frequently hungry, disheveled, and lacked order in their upbringing. Investigators were beginning to wonder who exactly they were investigating for the murder. Was it this unknown, unseen Shaggy man, or was the killer closer to home? When Downs went to see Christie for the first time since the accident, she was unable to talk due to a stroke. However, upon seeing her mother, Christie's eyes glazed over with panic, and her pulse rate accelerated significantly. They also discovered that Downs had called Robert Knickerbocker as soon as she arrived at the hospital. Whilst not evidence in and of itself, it does suggest to the police that whilst her children were mortally injured, she had more important things like old lovers to consider. As well as this, there was no blood on the driver's side of Diane's car, and there was no gunpowder residue on the driver's panel, which contradicted her story. Police spoke to Robert Knickerbocker, who told police that Downs had pursued him and seemed eager to kill his wife, if it meant she could have him all to herself. Knickerbocker expressed relief that Downs had left for Oregon, and that he and his wife could reconcile. Downs did not inform police she owned a .22 caliber handgun, but both her ex-husband and Steve Downs and her ex-lover Knickerbocker confirmed she did. Investigators eventually determined she purchased the pistol in Arizona, and while they were unable to locate the firearm, they did discover unfired casings with extractor markings from the same gun that shot the children at her home. Witnesses noticed Downs' car being driven very slowly toward the hospital, at a pace believed to be between 5 and 7 miles per hour, contradicting Downs' assertion that she went to the hospital at a high speed following the shooting. Downs was shot in the left arm, but authorities said it was self-inflicted to divert attention away from her. Cheryl Lynn, her 7-year-old daughter, was killed in the gunshot, while her other 2 children, Christie Ann, 8, and Stephen Daniel, 3, suffered near-fatal injuries. Downs was arrested by Lane County Sheriff's deputies when she entered the Cottage Grove post office, where she worked part-time as a mail carter on February 28, 1984. Downs was charged with 1 count of murder, 2 counts of attempted murder, and 2 charges of first-degree assault by Lane County grand jury. Downs' murder trial in Lane County Circuit Court in Eugene lasted 31 days and was one of the most widely covered in Oregon history. When she arrived and left the Lane County courthouse each day, Downs smiled and waved to the collected reporters, photographers, television cameramen, and spectators. Outside the courtroom, she seemed to enjoy the limelight. Inside the courtroom, however, Downs was being pummeled by zealous prosecutors who had clearly done their homework and critical witnesses who cast doubt on her tale. Christie Ann, her surviving daughter, gave the most damning testimony. Christie Ann Downs said that her mother pulled over to the side of a country road, exited the vehicle, and returned to the trunk. The youngsters then testified that her mother opened, closed, and returned to the car with something in her hand after opening and closing the trunk. She heard the first shot a few seconds later. Christie Ann replied in a trembling voice to Frederick A. Hoogie, Lane County Deputy District Attorney, when asked how she knew her mother fatally shot her sister. "I watched her. My mom did it." After that, Christie Ann broke down in tears when she told the jury, in response to Hoogie's line of questioning, that her mother had reached over the back seat of the automobile, shot both Christie Ann and her brother Danny. Christie Ann denied anyone instructing her or urged her to lie about the incident despite some hard cross-examination by Downs' attorney James C. Jagger. In his opening remarks, Jagger stated that others had told the girl what had transpired the night of the shooting and that she had been persuaded to believe that her mother was the perpetrator. Downs later denied shooting her children because they got in the way of her and her former partner whilst testifying in her own defense. Downs shot her 3 children because her ex-boyfriend in Chandler, Arizona, didn't want anything to do with the lady with 3 children, according to the prosecution. She stated that she loved her 3 children and that no man has ever made her want to hurt them. After 36 hours of deliberation, the jury of 9 women and 3 men reached a unanimous decision. Cheryl Lynn Downs was shot and killed, and she was found guilty of murder. In the shootings of Christie Ann Downs and Stephen Daniel Downs, she was found guilty of attempted murder. For the attack on her 3 children, she was found guilty of first-degree assault. Downs, who was expecting her 4th child at the time, appeared unfazed when Circuit Judge Gregory G. Foote read the verdict. Later, she was condemned to jail and life, plus 50 years in prison. Yes, you heard that right. During her trial, Diane Downs was pregnant once again. The father, of course, is unknown. Just 2 days after her trial ended, Diane gave birth to a baby girl. Chris Babcock, a chemist, and his stay-at-home mom wife, Jackie, already had 1 adopted daughter, Jenny. They had been attempting to adopt another child for 2 years. Regardless of Becky's birth mother's horrendous crimes, when authorities notified them about her, they were ecstatic to welcome her into their family. The baby was adopted and renamed Rebecca, but Chris and Jackie kept it a secret from her friends and fellow church members. They just set out to fulfill their jobs as parents, which was to provide Becky with the most enjoyable upbringing possible, which of course they did. But that's not the end of this story. Diane Downs made a daring escape from the Oregon Women's Correctional Center in Salem on July 11, 1987, 3 years after she was condemned. She vaulted 2 18-foot walls encircling the prison, slipped beneath a pickup truck, and waited several minutes before calmly walking away, according to authorities. Downs was believed to have worn multiple layers of clothing to escape puncture wounds from the barbed wire atop the fences, according to prison officials. A ragged striped shirt was discovered behind the pickup truck in which Downs was said to have sheltered after scaling the prison walls. The sensitive alarm on the fence rang momentarily at 8:40 a.m. that morning, but prison officials didn't think much of it because it happened at least once a day, owing to anything from a strong wind to a bird. However, prison guards carried out a swift emergency roll call after a nurse who arrived at the jail 15 minutes later reported seeing a suspicious lady climb out from under a pickup truck and walk away, claiming that the woman was Diane Downs. The nurse told the guards that the woman appeared to be Diane Downs, a massive search operation was initiated in the Salem area. Ironically, Downs was picked up hitchhiking while dressed in civilian clothing, while she was located practically just across the street from the women's prison and adjacent to the headquarters of the Oregon State Police Division 2 headquarters. Downs was picked up by an unknown couple who took her to a restaurant at State and 24th Streets, 3 blocks from the prison, where she was released. Downs claimed she needed to get to a phone immediately because her partner had just been injured in a vehicle accident, according to investigators. Downs' escape sparked a multi-state manhunt, which concluded 10 days later in Salem, less than a half-mile from the prison. The FBI examined indentions on a piece of paper found in Downs' cell. The FBI was able to strengthen the indentions on the paper, which had a house address and a map identifying his location, using an electrostatic method. For 2 days, Oregon State Police transformed drive-by surveillance on the rundown house. The house was then searched by state and local police, who discovered Downs and 4 other males inside. The 4 men were accused of obstruction of justice. Downs was sent to the Correctional Institution for Women in Clinton, New Jersey, in November 1987, a maximum security prison. Oregon prison officials agreed to take 2 New Jersey convicts in return. In September 1991, Downs made headlines once more when Marion County Circuit Judge Dwayne R. Erskgard dismissed her appeal for a new trial. In a letter to Downs' counsel, Erskgard stated that she was appropriately defended by lawyers during her trial and appeal. In February 1987, the Oregon Court of Appeals upheld her convictions. But Elizabeth Diane Downs, whose story has been the subject of at least 2 novels and a made-for-television film, maintains her innocence in her new home, the Washington State Women's Correctional Institute in Gig Harbor, Washington. Where then are Diane's surviving children at this point in time? Following the conclusion of the legal processes, the children Christie and Danny were adopted by the prosecutor for Lane County, Fred Hoogie, and his wife Joanne. The suspense writer Ann Rule stated the following on her official website. Christie and Danny, who miraculously survived their gunshot wounds, have not talked to Diane. They have both reached the end of their academic careers. Christie is a married woman who became a mother in the year 2005. Her child is a boy. Despite the fact the bullet that was lodged in Danny's spine has left him partially paralyzed, he leads a completely normal and happy life. They have lovely childhood memories of their time spent with the Huggies. Tuco claims that Christie, who is now in her 40s, suffers from a speech impairment as a direct result of the incident that occurred many years ago. She received her education at the University of Oregon and currently resides in this area with her family, which includes her husband and her children. In 2005, she gave birth to her first kid, a male. Subsequently, she gave birth to a daughter, whom she named Cheryl after her sister. On the other hand, Danny has not divulged any information about his private life. According to Tuco, Danny is carrying on with his typical activities, but information concerning his personal life, such as whether or not he is married and whether or not he has children, is unknown.